Matt Lenihan Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and our Kings. Eddie Hearn were here weighing day. Benn has just weighed in 156.4.
Correct.
Looks in good spirits, in good nick. How sort of pleased you that we're finally here, we're edging closer?
Yeah, exactly on track for the number that we kind of said. I don't know if I said it in your interview, I said it most. I expect him to be about 156, 157 on the scales. He was bang in the middle, trained this morning, and that's it. You know, don't really want him to kind of have a big breakfast and eat your way up to be 160, be the weight that you are 100% ready to fight at, and that's 156.4. In the ring tomorrow, he'll be 162, 163, and Eubank will be 176, 177, and he'll be giving away a stone, which is a huge disadvantage. But that makes the victory even more sweeter and more impressive.
Eubank Junior is yet to weigh in, currently late. You said he requested an earlier
weigh-in.
But they've not shown up. What do you put that down to? Is he just trying to shake the last couple off?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think that sometimes you never really know. Like, the reality is, I've been around fighters making weight for many, many years. Everybody knows roughly what you will take off overnight. Everyone knows roughly what you will lose in a session. Everyone knows roughly what a depletion of water and food will make you lose.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're 0.2 out or 0.1 out, and at that stage, that's actually quite difficult to get off. So, you know, it's very likely that he woke up this morning and was like, okay, a little stroll and a little bit of work to be done, and then maybe it takes a little bit longer, or maybe he just couldn't be asked to get out of bed. Who knows? But we'll find out in a minute, because he'll be on the scale. But it'll be very tough for him. I don't expect the hydration to be that tough, if I'm honest. This will be the tough part.
So I saw Eubank Junior saying normally hydrates and puts on about 14 pounds. Obviously, he's got
to
a
the fight. That'll be the same. But that's to the fight.
Yeah, not the first initial.
No.
Yeah.
So what will happen is, when a fighter makes weight, I mean, a lot of people know this, but for people who don't, they don't eat straight away. It's the last thing you do. You rehydrate with liquid for a few hours, right? So as soon as you do that, you will put on 6 or 7 pounds immediately with the fluid. Then he'll eat lunch tonight, then he might have a little session tonight, a little sharpness, then he'll sleep and he'll lose 3 pounds overnight, 2 or 3 pounds overnight, and he'll be on the number. I don't think he's going to have to watch anything specifically. Of course, he can't go out and have pizza and pasta and steak and, you know, but he'll just he'll be fine. And then after, what he'll do is he'll wake up in the morning. As soon as he wakes up, he'll wait. Then he'll have his fluid, then he'll have his breakfast, then he'll have his lunch, then he'll have more fluid, and he'll probably put on another 6, 7, 8 pounds during the day as well.
Do you think, obviously, the financial implications for him not hitting them weight will be too great for him to say, you know what? Yeah. Because he could. I look at him and the way he does things, and I think you're the type who just say, "Fuck it, I'll just do what I want."
There's a big difference to what you see with Eubank Junior and the real Eubank Junior. In my opinion.
What do you mean?
Because I think a lot of it is premeditated, I think a lot of it is for show. I don't agree and believe with a lot of what he says, and I know that for a fact, but I'm not going to get into an argument about it. He won't want to do the money. And when it comes to money, it's very different with those people. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, yes, he can make a statement and he can do this, but the reality is when it's going to cost him money, he will be too stubborn not to do it. And I'll say again, the rehydration, I don't think is even an issue. This is the issue right now. So once he makes that 160, which I believe he will, by the way, because I think, again, that's a bit more embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? If you don't make the rehydration, you can say, oh yeah, well, it wasn't right, the clause anyway. This is the championship weight, you know, and I don't think he'll miss championship weight.
I've got to ask you, yesterday, so we spoke about it briefly in the huddle, but you sort of did a bit of a flip reverse and thought, we'll throw scumbag number 2, aka Frank Smith, in there and see what happens. He received the same treatment. I was a bit like, I thought he would be a bit more gun shy with Frank, just because of obvious family relations. He went full throttle for him.
Yeah, but all it was designed to do was take the script away from Chris. Everything Chris does is premeditated. Like, he's not thinking about things on the spot. It's all written down on his phone. And if anyone watches, which, you know, you will see him in the press conference before he spoke and before it got round to me, just like this, and just reading things that he's got to say and points that he's got to make. Some people do that. So I just thought what I'll do is rather than let him play the game and read off his script, I'll just rip the script up and I'll bring in scumbag number 2.
How long were you thinking about doing that? How long has that been in
I said to Frank, firstly, obviously, because of the situation, the relationship situation, I wanted to make sure he was comfortable. So I didn't want to throw Frank under a bus and go, listen, mate, I might call you up there for a laugh just to wind him up. You up for it? And he's like, yeah, but also, there's a lot, I'm not going to do this forever. Frank Smith is the future of Matchroom and Matchroom boxing. Already he's really running Matchroom boxing. I'm the mouthpiece, I'm the deal maker, I'm the salesman, I'm all that kind of stuff, but he runs the business, right? I want him to get as much profile as possible, and that's like the biggest stage possible. So many more people know who Frank Smith is now, and I need him to start doing press conferences as I move into other areas of sport or other areas of the business. Do you know what I mean? You can't will me out all the time at next gens, at this and that, and Frank getting better and better in that environment. And you get better in that environment by putting yourself in that environment. And that environment was the deep end for Frank. A bit like Jamie Ward yesterday, who we're also really proud of.
Brilliant, by the way, brilliant.
But when you get thrust into that deep end, the other stuff becomes so much easier and so much more natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people say to me about how I am at press conferences, don't forget that when I did Audie Harrison against David Hay, I was shitting myself. When I did Paul McCroskey against Amir Khan, I was sitting on my hands so they weren't shaking. You don't just walk for the first time and go, welcome ladies and gentlemen, like that's built over time. I am a genius, so it does come a lot more naturally to me. But people like Frank, you've got to work it a little bit harder. But yeah, you learn from being in, and that was 80% of it was just to fuck with Eubank, and 20% of it was to give Frank that profile and that experience.
Got to ask you, forgetting Eubank, I think we expected that. Rick Reenos. So the first big ring event, I'm sat there, and when he says about peddling shit through the zone, I'm immediately looking, going, he's sat on the table with the guy who sort of made the big jump to the zone. He's talking about promoters, and he says, I don't know if I can say anything or if there is people up here kind of thing. And I'm like going, you're all working together to put on this show. So have you spoke to him off camera?
Yeah,
what was
so
said?
I get on well. Look, I think those guys, they like a little bit of fuckery and they like a few headlines, but at the same time, I said in the interview, it's a difficult one because this is my entire life.
It's personal.
And it's very personal because it's my family business, and I feel like the contribution that we've made to sport and to boxing particularly has been incredible. I'm not saying every show's amazing, but what we've done for British boxing is incredible, and I've sacrificed a lot for that. I've worked my bollocks off, right? And it's not easy sometimes. But before the presser, Rick came over to me and he said, I'm going to say a little bit of shit about you and Shalom, and I just presumed it was like, oh, you two, blah blah blah. So when he's talking, I'm like, wow. But I'm not like, it's a bit like when Eubank come out with the scumbag stuff. I don't know. People were a lot more offended with what Rick Reenos said than I was. But at the same time, Rick came up to me after and said, what did you think? I said, I think you're a prick. And he went, what? I said, no, but I'm honest like that. Do you know what I mean? I said, no, I think the reality is, Ring Magazine is, a great brand. It's, in my opinion, it's not a promoter. I am the promoter of this show on paper. I am the licensed promoter with the British Boxing Board of Control. But this is a ring event, right? We could have done this event on our own, but we wanted to do it with His Excellency in Ring because they bring something fresh, and obviously they're investing in the show as well. We, Matchroom, and my incredible team, and Boxer, to be fair, have put a huge amount of work and effort into this event. And I don't really care what Rick Reenos says, he works as a journalist, but at the same time, I found it disrespectful to my team, who would have been listening to that thinking, what do you mean it's not our event? We've worked every day on this for 3 months, non-stop. And I thought the comments were extremely disrespectful. I know there's a lot of people that were unhappy with the comments, a lot of people. More so than me. I take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But I just said to Rick what I said, and I said, don't worry about it. Because It just sits in there. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a competitor, and when you're a little bit sick in the head, like me, that actually is a good thing to have things like that every now and again. You know what I mean? Because it just takes you to another level and makes you go, okay, so.
I've got to move on from that. So I was involved in another huddle where there was comments made regarding an interview I think that Chris Eubank Senior done I think 2 years ago. What sort of sparked that off? Have you sort of cleared that up now? With the comments that were made?
Raheem lied about what was. I mean, firstly, Radio Raheem, who we work with, we've done loads of interviews. We get on with him. He's been a bit weird this week, to be honest with you. He was in a huddle and he said, Chris Eubank Senior was on TalkSport today, and in an interview he said you gave Conor Benn heads, and you should be of your license or whatever. And I said, you what? And he said, yeah, today on TalkSport. This is what he said. So I said, wow, I mean, that's weird. No one sent me that. Like, I would think I would have that, like, immediately. I said, but listen, if he said that, I'll be taking legal action against Chris Eubank Senior. So after this, Raheem, you better send me that clip. So after the thing, Raheem sent me the clip, and it was a complete load of bollocks. Firstly, the interview wasn't today, it was 2.5 years ago. Secondly, he never said Eddie Hearn gave him peds and he should be banned. He alluded that someone in the team around him would give him the thing. And Raheem said, no, yeah, but I paraphrased it. I said, no, you lied about what was said. And I'm not having that.
Yeah.
Because all I read across Twitter and is bullshit. And every now and again, you're going to pay for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even now, Raheem says, sorry, I got the timing of the interview wrong, well, only by a couple of years. But secondly, he didn't say those words. Oh, well, he kind of said it. He alluded to it. So it's a very different thing. If you would have said to me, Chris Eubank yesterday gave him it, where he alluded that someone in his team gave him peds, and he said that you were in his team and maybe you're in that circle. Very different to Chris Eubank Junior said you gave him peds. That's not on. And I will deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Because again, like when I go back to a lot of things I just let fly. I can't be asked because it's like you start defending them and then it ends up becoming an even bigger thing. But certain things like that, accusations like that, especially when you were in the huddle, I gave him the opportunity a couple of times. And I said, so you just get this clear. Today, on TalkSport, yes. No mate.
Right.
So that'll be dealt with.
Look, Eddie, I know other people are wanting you now, so I'm going to let you go before I take the piss. I appreciate it. Thank you.